All right, so we're going to talk about absolute value equations. Before we begin, I want you guys to tell me what are the possible x values of this problem. Talk to the people around you, try to figure it out, and then we'll go over it. Okay, so guys, what did y'all say? Yep, 7 and a negative 7. The reason being, the absolute value of 7 is 7. Because if you look at a number line, here's 0. If this is 7, it's 7 spaces away. So is negative 7. Negative 7 is also 7 spaces away from 0. Okay? Whenever you have absolute value bars, we're talking about distance. How far is this number from 0? Yep. Both negative 7 and positive 7 are 7 spaces away from 0. Okay? All right, so let's look at number 2. Are any numbers a distance of negative 4 away? What's the absolute value of 4? It's positive 4. What's the absolute value of negative 4? 4. It should always be a positive, okay? Because we're talking about distance. How far is something away from 0? It should always be positive. That's why number 2, this is not possible. So I'm just going to put none. There are no x values that will give you negative 4 when you do the absolute value of it, okay? So keep this in mind. We're going to come back to this idea. Let's look at steps on how to solve an absolute value equation. First, you're going to isolate the absolute value equation. So let's go to an example. Let's go to this one. Let's go to number 12. Actually, sorry, I'll do an easy one. Let's just do number 1. Okay, let's do a hard one then. Let's do number 6. Let's try number 6. Okay, I'm going to write number 6 on the board. Okay, can someone read me number 6, please?
So the 3 and then a line, and the m plus 8 and a line equals 39.
Perfect. Okay, so the first step is to isolate the absolute value symbol. I want these bars by itself. Right now it's not by itself because it has the 3 on the outside. How do I get rid of this 3? Divide by 3 on both sides. So what I get is absolute value is equal to 13. 39 divided by 3 is 13. Okay, so that was step 1. Isolate the absolute value symbols. Let's look at the next step. Next step is to create 2 cases. So we're going to set the inside equal to both the positive and the negative value. Just like we did here. You have 2 different answers. You can have a positive one and a negative one. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to do 2 cases. I'm going to have m plus 8 is equal to 13. And I'm going to do m plus 8 is equal to negative 13. That's step 2, create 2 cases. What's step 3? Solve? Yep, we just solved it. Step 3 is just solving. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this. I'm going to subtract 8. What will this be?
5.
Yep. So we get 5 for this one. And subtract 8. What do I get over here? Negative 21. Okay. All right, so these are my 2 answers. Let's make sure that these are true. So our last step is to check for extraneous solutions. And before we move on, guys, what are extraneous solutions?
Solutions that don't do it like that, don't solve the equation and plug back in.
Exactly. So an extraneous solutions are answers that don't work. If you plug it back in, it makes no sense. Extraneous solutions are answers that don't work. If you plug it back into the original problem, it won't make any sense. And I'll show you an example of an extraneous solution. All right, so let's plug it in to make sure this works. If I put this 5 in here, If I put a 5 here, 5 plus 8 is 13. 13 times 3 gives me the 39. Okay, that worked. Now let's plug in this negative 21. So this is the original problem. I'm going to plug in a 30, negative 21. Okay, what's negative 21 plus 8? Negative 13. What is the absolute value of negative 13? Just 13. Is 13 times 3, 39? Nice, so when we plugged this in, it worked. No extraneous answers. They all made sense when you plugged it in. Okay?
And if m equals 5, then negative.
Yep, we have two answers. M equals 5 and M equals negative 21. All right, let's look at another example. Let's do number 7. Let's try number 7. Okay. Do y'all have this written? Can I erase this? Okay. Next, this is number 7 on the same page. What do I do first? Yep, divide by 16. So guys, I have the absolute value of r minus 5 equaling negative 2, because negative 32 divided by 16 is negative 2. But guys, think about this. Can your absolute value equal a negative? No. Absolute value makes everything positive. This cannot happen. So you can just stop here and put no solution. Once you isolate your absolute value symbol and it equals a negative, you're done. It's no solution. No matter what number you plug in for r, the bars make it positive. It will never equal negative. All right, so that's number 7. Let's try a harder one. Let's do number 15. Let's try 15. I want to show you an extraneous one. It's no solution because the absolute value is equaling a negative. All right. Number 12. What do I do first? I do have to isolate. What do I do? No. No.
Simplify the back.
No. Okay, so guys, y'all are all saying divide by this negative 12 first. That is wrong. You do not do that first. Whenever you are solving an equation, you need to go backwards from PEMDAS. Okay, this stands for multiply, multiplication, right? This stands for division. I'll just put multiply, division, add, subtract. You need to go backwards. Okay, multiplication and division should never be your first step. What should be your first step in this case? Subtracting. Okay, so guys, this is a plus 8. To get rid of it, you subtract 8 from both sides. Okay, so we get negative 16 minus 8, which is what, negative 24? Okay, we're a little bit closer to isolating these bars. What do we do next? Wait, there's no addition on here though. Yes, we're gonna divide. Now we can get rid of this negative 12. Okay, so negative 24 divided by negative 12 is 2. Yay. My absolute value symbol is by itself. There's nothing on the outside of it. Okay, we did step 1. What's step 2? No, guys, go to the front page. What does it say?
Create 2 cases.
Create 2 cases. Let's look at the notes. After we isolate, we create 2 cases. So now we're going to create 2 cases. I'm going to do 2 equals k over 5, and I'm going to do negative 2 equals k over 5. And then we're going to solve to get k by itself. Step 3 is solve. Now, if you understand what I'm doing, you can move on. There's plenty of problems on the page. So we're gonna multiply by 5, multiply by 5. So we get k is 10. 5 times 2 is 10. Now let's do the other side. Multiply by 5, that cancels out. Multiply this side by 5, I get k is negative 10. Now, we always need to check for extraneous solutions. So I'm gonna write the original problem up here. Okay, the original problem was negative 16 equals negative 12. I'm gonna plug in a 10 and let's see if it works. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. And what's the absolute value of 2? Just 2. What's negative 12 times 2? Negative 24. Is negative 24 plus 8 negative 16? Is this true? Perfect. So 10 works. I'm in a box. That's my answer. Okay, now let's plug in a negative 10 this time. Just look. Now we're gonna plug in a negative 10. What's negative 10 divided by 5? But what's the absolute value of negative 2? It's just 2, so it's gonna work out just fine. So these are both your answers. If you plug in a 10, the problem makes sense. If you plug in a negative 10, the problem makes sense. All right, so I'm gonna pause here. I'm gonna let you guys work on the rest. Always check your answers, make sure nothing is extraneous. Nice.